I know with your podcast, there is this theme about my story. Can you elaborate on that and tell us a little bit more about your podcast?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've discovered it in my songwriting too. I write songs that are steeped in real life, man. I like to say that my songs have been lived in and lived through. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not just pulling stuff out of
This is
thin air.
nice.
These songs that I write, they're inspired by my story. They're inspired by the stories of other people's lives who come to my shows or send me a letter and they share about what they're going through. And I think what I've learned and when I receive stories from people, man, one of the common refrains that I get from people is they feel like their story is insignificant or their story doesn't
Mhm.
matter. I mean, I you know, I can't tell you. I mean, I've collected thousands of people's stories. In fact, have a whole nonprofit organization that's inspired by encouraging people to recognize that their story matters, their story is significant, and their story can have a great purpose and impact in the world. And the reason why I started that whole nonprofit is because I saw a need. I saw that there were people left and right who deep down, they may cover it up well. They may even look successful. They may be massively successful in their life, but deep down, they've been made to feel like their story is insignificant, or maybe they've messed up a bunch of times and their story is disqualified. How could God possibly use a story like mine? And so I think that's a big theme in my music, in my podcast, in my books is hopefully speaking to anybody out there to acknowledge and help them and be encouraged to go, man, if you're here on this earth, if your heart is beating and your lungs are breathing, there is a purpose for you today. Your story matters because the master storyteller has decided that it is so. And he has you here on this earth for a purpose. And then that's our goal. We get to tap into that. I think too often, though, we get it twisted and we think, well, then my story is for my glory. Like I want to achieve something that makes the world see me, applaud me, think that I'm special. What separates me from the crowd? I want to be famous, or I want to be rich, or I want to have this car. I want to, you know what I mean? These statuses of and symbols of success. And I think that's where we get off track, right? Is the realization that our stories are here, but it's not for our glory. We're here for a greater purpose. And so I sign off every show, every episode saying, hey, remember, it's your story for his glory. And to me, that's been just a massive turning point in my life as someone having a career that's on stage, under the lights, on the radio. Somebody's asking for my autograph or something like that, man, I can quickly get lulled into how good that feels and think that it's my story for my glory. But the most fulfilling moments of my career and my life have come when I've been beautifully and humbly reminded that I'm not here for me to get the glory. I'm here to live out a story where people look at me and go, man, the only way that was possible is because of the one who made him. You know, we want to live our lives in a way where God gets all the glory.
When you're going through a rough time or a low spot in your own life, how do you get on stage and lead people to worship when sometimes you feel like, how can I worship because I don't feel right? And I need refreshing of my own. How do you go about doing that?
Man, I'm smiling because that's such a great question. Because guess what? That happens so often, and a lot of times it's you know, feeling like a hypocrite too. You know, like getting up and like right now, you know, my big song is "Don't Stop Praying," right? And it's like sometimes I'm so busy during my day that I forget to take care of first things first. And then I get up on stage and I'm singing Don't Stop Praying. And sometimes I'll feel like guilty going, man, like am I living these songs that I'm singing? You know what I mean? And I think the grace that I find on a daily basis is what keeps me going. And the reality is, Andrew, like I start to realize these songs that I sing, they're not they're not me saying, "Let me show you how to do it because I've mastered the art." They're songs that they're talking about living your life in such a way, not that I have achieved it, but in a way that I aspire to achieve it, right? Like Paul talked about, not that I have obtained all these, but I press on, right? Paul was, you know, admitting I haven't reached that level of perfection, but I'm going to run my race and keep trying. And that's how I feel when I'm singing these songs. But the short answer to your question is, how do I feel? How do I get up on stage like when I'm discouraged or I'm tired or don't feel like I've lived the messages of my songs? It brings me to this place of dependence where otherwise I would walk on stage with this feeling of self-sufficiency, like, oh, I've got this. I put in my 10,000 hours. I know how to write a song. I know how to do a show. I know how to sing well. I got this. But the weaker I feel as I'm heading on stage, the more dependent I become. And the more dependent I become, the more there's no question who gets the glory at the end of that concert. And so I smile sometimes when I'm on stage, just going, all right, this song might be for the audience, but I know it's for me. And I'm thankful for those moments where I know that I'm completely dependent on God. And I ask God to forgive me for the rest of the moments of my day, because the reality is we're dependent on him every second of every day. The reality of it for our lives is that we tend to forget that quite often.